Well, welcome along, ladies and gentlemen, to the Axom Bulletin. As you can see, I'm not Paul John Dykes, but we still do have JP Mason. So the PGA JP combination is broken today, but hopefully I'll be able to hold the fort as well as Paul John would here on a Thursday afternoon. JP, we always start with the kit that's behind you. That is a classic number. Is that the 2004-5 kit?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
First person that jumps into my head that I remember seeing in that kit is probably Juninho.
Oh wow, hardly the best number 7 that's ever been at Celtic. What a weird signing that was. I have to say I was never overly enthused about that even before he signed. I just, it was one of those ones where you just thought, I don't think we're getting this guy at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
The ship had kind of sailed at that point, and it proved to be the case. I don't even know. I couldn't tell you what Juninho did after Celtic. I have no idea where he went.
I have a feeling he went back to Middlesbrough, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll need to double check. I'll check whilst everybody's coming in and telling me I'm wrong, but I think he might have went back to Middlesbrough. And then that was also the season we signed Henri Camara as Henrik Larsson's replacement, and that was literally replacing gold with something that you could buy out of the pawn shop.
Yeah. Again, what did he do after Celtic as well? It's one of these things, when players come in and then you're really into them when they're in the Celtic shirt, and then you kind of sort of pay little attention to what they do after they've left. Although I have, in saying that, maybe it's a more mature obsession with the club and the players, but I've been looking in to see how the loan players are doing, because essentially they are still our players at the moment, like Sabal, Coley and Barkas. And did you see the clip of Barkas keeping a clean sheet?
I was going to speak about that later on. Yeah, I felt as if that was CGI'd, but we'll touch on that.
I like the green on that shirt. It's a very different green to other. It probably doesn't look like that in the camera, but it's a very different green to a lot of other Celtic home tops throughout the years.
I'm just quickly looking up. So Juninho went to Palermo after he left Celtic. 60-odd appearances and 20-odd goals. So Henri Camara went out on loan to Southampton, then signed for Wigan, went on loan to West Ham, Stoke City, Sheffield United, went to Greece, had a spell there, went to Cyprus, had a spell there.
Wow.
Yeah. He's one of those ones that's got maybe 15 to 20 clubs. In fact, he'd be one of those ones that would be fantastic. See, for the guess the player from the Wikipedia, could you?
Yeah.
He would be fantastic for that one, because a spell from 1998 to 2018, over 400 games. You wouldn't have thought that of somebody like him.
He must have had a good agent then, because that's a lot of moves.
It's up there with Colin Kazim Richards' agent.
Yeah, but it's a lot of moves and a lot of potential signing on fees as well. Every time you're moving to a club. Fair play to him. I had no idea what he did post Celtic, but didn't really do that much while he was at Celtic, though, did he? I mean, there was a lot expected of him, and he was never going to get anywhere near the guy that he was brought in to replace.
Absolutely.
Which definitely, in terms of current chat around guys like Giakoumakis, there's this article that was penned.
Oh, we'll touch on that.
We'll touch on that as well, right?
We will touch on that.
We'll wait for that then.
I don't steal all the thunder too quick, JP. I know we've usually we take up the first 10 minutes with music chat, but I know I'm not up to your level, so
that's why Paul's not here, because he's away to the venue for the gig tonight to get set up. So I don't know how much more plugging that needs, because it's virtually sold out. I mean, I saw there was 17 tickets left for it. So really, really cool. I've never been to I'm going tonight. I've never been to the venue before, Dr. Bell's Baths. Don't even really know where it is. I know it's in Leith somewhere, but there'll definitely be a lot of people there and a lot of bands. So,
and it's a late one as well. I hear there's a DJ set on to 2 a.m, so make sure you've got the next day off work.
I'll be on the train back to Glasgow for that, for sure.
Well, it's not just myself and JP that's here today. It's all of you guys and girls that are watching on YouTube. Starting with Feed the Bear, Afternoon Axom and chat. I hope you're all well. Hail, hail. Keith Oden, he's always in, all the way from Plymouth. great to see where you're all coming from, especially Dale saying that he's from the People's Republic of Free Inverness. I mean, there's a lot of republics going through Scotland at the minute, I'm sure. Just a warm welcome to everyone who is joining us. Lanky67 here. Good afternoon all. Not staying for long, getting my stuff organised for work this weekend, away for 12 days. Well, I hope you're able to catch up on the shows whilst you're away, Lanky. Everybody else here, Monty, afternoon, Colin and Jurgen. Jurgen, you've got a lot of explaining to do. You done me at a coupon this weekend. Yeah, and we've got finally here Kevin Graham, who will also be at the event, I believe, tonight. So if you are going along to that, enjoy. Now, let's look at the tagline, which is why Ange's We Never Stop Mancha spells further transfer activity. And this comes off the back of reports emanating from Sweden and Russia that Celtic have now agreed a fee with Rubin Kazan for the signing of left winger Said Haksabanovic. Have I kind of muddled that? Or is that
No, you're right.
Haksabanovic is a 23-year-old Montenegrin international. He currently plays for Rubin Kazan. Obviously, everyone's aware of what's happening over in that region of the world just now. He is somebody that has been on Celtic's radar for a while. I first heard of this, JP, about 2-3 weeks ago. And I was told at the time that Celtic were looking for a loan deal with the option to buy. And I believe that's what's been reported in the Daily Record today. But from what we're hearing from reporters in Russia, it looks as if Celtic have been told that they couldn't get the loan deal, but have agreed a fee for this player. It's believed to be a lot less than the 6.5 million euros that Rubin Kazan had paid. We don't know exactly what the figure is just now. But for someone with 18 caps for their country at 23 years old, I think that's not a bad pickup here, JP.
Yeah, I mean, I just briefly looked into it when I saw some chat about it last night, that he's a left-sided player, but can also play through the middle, apparently. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's definitely clear the manager likes to have players that are interchangeable in the system. You know, Jota and Maeda swapping wings, Forrest capable of playing both sides. And, you know, this is someone else coming in to provide competition, which I think, you know, just picking up this sort of feeling from people you speak to, other Celtic fans, you know, the two positions that you would want filled. Can I
just stop you here? Normally people would say that's Greenock where those sirens are coming from. But I can convince you it's Glasgow this time. So it's not just Greenock where these sirens go off. It's not just me.
No, it's the 100% here, and they do go off regularly. I'm normally, if I'm not talking and I hear one coming, I mute my microphone just to avoid it. But I was in mid-flight there, so but just you know, you're speaking to people, you know, fellow fans, friends, and stuff you see on Twitter as well. You know, the profile or the position that you would want, or people want additional bodies in the door, are, you know, left or right wing, and well, I think we're quite covered in defence now. I think everybody's quite confident at this point in time of what we've got in the centre of defence. So I think it would be, you know, midfield. If McCarthy was to go, as he's probably likely to go, you would have thought it would be midfield and on the wing that you'd want further backup brought in. So obviously this guy's been scouted for a while, like you said. I think I read somewhere that we were linked with him like a year ago, maybe, as well. I know you said like a couple of weeks there was a chat, the loan deal, but there's another one. There was a chat like a year ago or whatever. So he's obviously been in the mix to become a Celtic player for some time, and you know, that's always a good thing, because how many times before have we complained about knee-jerk signings, or signing people for the sake of it, or you know, an agent just picking up the phone and saying, "Oh, I've got this guy. You know, what about him?" You know, it's good to know that it's somebody that has been watched for a while, and you know, Ange Postecoglou is pretty confident about him fitting into the system, you know, seamlessly, if he's going to come in at this stage.
Yeah, and it's someone who has been on the radar of a lot of clubs for quite a long time. At 15, he made his debut in the Swedish top league, which means that he was the second youngest player to make his debut there. He had trials in 2015 with Manchester United, with Liverpool, with Chelsea, and with Aston Villa. He then joined West Ham in 2017 for a fee of £2.7 million. He ended up back in the Swedish league at Norrköping. So many terrible pronunciations I'm going to have today.
I think that's all right. I think that's cool.
But from there, he made the move to Rubin Kazan for €6.5 million, and he was last at Djurgården for the last couple of months of the season due to what's happening with the conflict in Russia, or the invasion, as it should say, at the minute. So there is no Russian league. They're not being able to play any sort of football. There's no money coming in, stuff like that. The players were given the chance to leave their clubs. I think under this one, though, they're only allowed to leave for a certain period of time. Otherwise, you've then got to pay a fee, which I think is quite interesting, depending on how long you had left on your contract. And that's what really suited Jordan Larsson when he moved to Schalke. But Haksabanovic, still had something like 4 years left on his deal at Rubin Kazan. So I believe that's why Celtic have to pay a fee. But when you look at it, we're talking about he's a left-sided player, can play across the three. If I look at the depth on the left-hand side as it stands at the minute, you would say that Maeda is the first choice out there just now. Then Jota can play there, and then you've got Mikey Johnson. Am I missing anybody there? I don't think so.
Abada?
I'd say Abada's more a right-hand-sided player.
Yeah, I'm now doubting myself as to where Abada actually plays in the team when he comes on. Who does he come on for usually?
Usually he does come on for Maeda, but then the two wingers switch.
Yeah.
So then you're looking at the right-hand side with Jota being the first choice, potentially Abada and Forrest. Now, I think on the right-hand side, you're looking at those three being going to be players that are there for the next season at the very least. Obviously, with Forrest new deal, Abada coming into form, and Jota being absolutely outstanding at the moment. We spoke about Mikey Johnson potentially going out on loan. And I think it is pretty clear that with Ange Postecoglou's sort of words and what he's saying, that's exactly where he wants to go. So he'd be out on loan, which means you're sitting there with Maeda and Jota. Now, if the two of them are playing, that means you've only got one player on the left-hand side in Maeda. So I think the left wing position is a position where we do need to strengthen. And if you can bring someone in like this, I mean, you never know, they could maybe hit the ground running the same way that Abada did and can prove his worth after a couple of months.
Well, I mean, he certainly seems keen to come from the reports that I've read online. Obviously it's just media chat and whatnot, but you see things like player keen on move and all the rest of it. I mean, how could he not be? I mean, there's a load of Champions League football, playing attacking football, which is obviously his, forte. If I was in his position, I would be, regardless of my allegiances to Celtic, I would certainly be keen to. We're an attractive prospect, however you want to dress it up. Yes, the Scottish League isn't the most exciting league in the world to play in, but Celtic as a club, are definitely an exciting prospect. And I'm sure if he was in any way pals with Carol Starfelt, he only needs to pick up the phone or drop him a text and be like, what like is it? I mean, Matt O'Reilly sold Celtic to Moritz Jens, and, Jens has come in and clearly is absolutely loving life. And, well, I would say as well, if Haksabanovic went on trial at Man United and didn't get in there, then he can count himself fortunate that he's not caught up in that particular mess at the moment. But that's a whole other podcast, isn't it?
The State of Manchester United podcast, I'm sure, will launch very soon. I've not managed to start watching the All or Nothing, the Arsenal one, but I've heard it's very good, and I've heard there's a lot of sort of meme moments in it. But I could just imagine what it would have been like to sort of record anything from Manchester United over the last couple of seasons. That would have been absolute gold dust.
It might explain a bit as to what's not happening there, because there's clearly huge problems, and it's worst start ever, I think, in a league campaign, or since I don't know, the 50s, if not before then. Shipping like so many goals, like the defense is horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But anyway, Haksabanovic has dodged a bullet there, and can hopefully come to Celtic and pick up his career. Which from what you read out seems to be quite a promising start to his career with his caps and his appearances so far, and a club shelling out £6.5 million for him. I mean, I know transfer fees don't indicate immediate success, as we've seen many times in recent seasons, but it's always a good indication that there's a player there that can be developed under the right coach.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've seen the development of players like Greg Taylor and Anthony Ralston over the last 12 months. I think even Jota this season looks as if he's stepped up another level, and that was with a full pre-season under him. So, yeah, what if we can get this player in side Haksabanovic on a kind of cheap deal, then you never know. It could be one of those ones that in 2-3 years' time we're talking about him going for 10-15 million pounds, and it just sort of continues the cycle of Celtic transfers, and it's kind of just the way it goes at the moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's numerous examples. I mean, you look at Frimpong. I mean, I genuinely didn't think Frimpong was that good. I wasn't convinced by him. I thought it was quite remarkable that he went for the fee that he went for. And now there's chat of Barcelona being. I mean, obviously, the Barcelona question over finances again is another podcast in itself. But the simple fact is that if your name's been linked to Barcelona, apparently he's on a 5-player shortlist for Barcelona. So I mean, that's immediately making me eat my words, and also would provide a further sell-on, because there was a sell-on included in the clause, I think, from what I've read, for Frimpong's next move. So we could end up getting something like, I don't know, 15, if you add it all in, 15 to 20 million for Frimpong, who we paid, what did we pay for him from Man City? Like
£500,000.
I mean, that's pretty good going. If you have to tip the cap to the men in charge for that, because that's a hell of a transfer turnaround.
I think when you look at it though, if I could pick him a team to go to right now to guarantee that you would get that payment, I don't know if I would choose Barcelona.
I know. We'd be waiting a while for our dividend.
I mean, I feel as if that it's probably Provi-checks that they're paying their transfer fees in at the minute.
It's weird, isn't it? It's so weird. Like,
it's just
it's murky, and I always had a fondness for Barcelona, but the whole Spotify sponsorship thing, and this new development with our player registrations and going out and hosing money on new players and then not being able to pay for them, or potentially not being able to pay for them. I don't know. It's pretty dark. It's not really what I think of when I think of Barcelona. You think of it more of a people's club and, self-sustained and all the rest of it. And it's just gone the complete opposite directions. It's heading more towards Real Madrid territory at the moment, trying to assemble Galacticos or whatever. And I don't know. It's a strange one, but you're right. I don't think we could be. We'd be waiting a bit long for our dividend if he does go to Barcelona.
Speaking about people that are panicking, Kevin Graham's into I'm completely stuffed with that lad's name. My brain is already smoking at the thought of it. Well, you see, someone came in earlier on, Michael McDonald, and he just says, we called one of the Polish lads Shuggy a while ago. It saves time and money on the shirt. So here's one for a competition. There's no prize, but a wee competition in the chat. Give us a nickname for side Haksabanovic. So we obviously called Jonas Edvaldsson. Shuggy, what would you call side Haksabanovic? We'll bring the best ones up later on. Look, if he does come, it does show that we are looking at still strengthening the squad between now and the end of this window. We've only got, 13, 14 days to go. If that is the sort of left-hand side of the park dealt with, and I believe that might be the case, where else do you see us strengthening before the window closes?
Well, the Ross Barkley thing seems to have been put to bed a bit, you know.
I don't think there was ever anything much in that, to be perfectly honest.
No. I mean, it definitely picked up a lot of traction on sites and things like that, but I mean, so does many things, I suppose. But I don't really know. I was of the mind that if Ross Barkley was coming in, then that certainly meant that James McCarthy was going to be going out the way, just because there's so much competition in that midfield. You've got a lot of players there, and you know, all of them vying for 3 spots, one of which is nailed on. And you could argue really that 2 of them are nailed on, and Matt O'Reilly, you know, because I think he's only going to get better. He's going to be disappointed with his finishing on Sunday. I think he probably should have got at least a goal on Sunday at Kilmarnock. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the defence in terms of the competition for centre halves. You know, Stephen Welsh has proved that he can be an able deputy. Jens has come in, goals aside, has looked reasonably good in defence.
Mm-hmm.
Not been massively tested yet, though, which is, you know, obviously if he is playing on Sunday, which he's likely to be, I would have thought, he'll be up against a better quality of striker and you know, the likes of Shankland and Boyce.
Well, sorry to interrupt you. I just think he did have a bit of a challenge on Sunday. I mean, he had the absolute brute up front that is Kyle Lafferty, who doesn't seem to be able to jump without raising his elbows. And I think he handled that really well.
I've not seen that back. See the incident when Jens was down over at near the dugout.
It was on the touchline furthest away from the dugout.
Yeah. I've not seen that incident back. Did he elbow him? Did he kick him? Like, what? Do you know?
I've not had the chance to see it back myself. When I was at the ground, I did think that he caught him.
Everyone said that he'd caught him, and you're like, well, why is he staying down? What's the point in, you know, feigning injury at this point in the game? You think he'd just get back up, but you know, certainly when they put it past Lafferty to have, you know, had a fly one at him, because he's, I mean, that guy, I absolutely cannot stand that guy. Like, just remember him scoring against us at Tynecastle, and he ran right up to the away support and just went like that, just smug as you like with it, and you just saw stuff raining down on him like cups and everything else. But hopefully nothing too heavy duty. But he was asking for pies and cups to come at him, if you ask me, with that celebration. Don't like the guy at all, never have. And, you know, just hark back to the Mulgrew incident as well, where he feigned the headbutt against Mulgrew when Mulgrew was at Aberdeen. Despicable behaviour. I wouldn't condone that in a Celtic jersey either. If it was a boot, all right, there you go.
Yeah, so it looks as if just by the comments that's coming in, I've not watched the game back, but it does look as if he's booted them in the tangerines.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess he did. Obviously, it was a physical tussle rather than, you know, playing against anybody with any real, you know, threat of, you know, scoring. Really, I mean, Lafferty ballooned one over the bar, had a tame shot. Otherwise, was responsible for losing them 2 goals. You would say, because of his, you know, marking. So, yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. It was in the same sense as, you know, you come up against sort of bully strikers like at Livingston, you know, when Julien came up against Dykes or whatever. You know, obviously Dykes has gone on to do all right in his career and earn a big move. But, you know, I think it's a different kettle of fish playing against, I mean, Shankland's a good striker. The Hearts have done well to get him. back in Scotland. I believe he's a Hearts fan from being a boy. So you've got that extra sort of motivation for him to do well. I'm sure he'll want to do well against Celtic, and he'll be looking for deficiencies in our defence. So hopefully Jens can stand up to that on Sunday. But yeah, the defence is not something I'm overly kind of like going, oh, we're not in a good place here, because our first two choices are Starfelt and Carter Vickers, and I'm sure in the fullness of time Starfelt will pick his place back up. We seem to be okay at left and right back, and up top, I've seen a few people saying we should be going for another striker, but where is that striker going to get a sniff?
See, this is where probably I would say if there was one more signing to make, I would probably make a striker. And the reason that I would do that is I just think that with one injury, you're starting to look a bit lightweight. I mean, you take a look at, say, like Kyogo started on Sunday and put in a really good shift. Giakoumakis comes off the bench and there's no drop in standard there. None at all. I mean, you see what happened when the cross came over, and obviously fantastic over nutmeg from Giakoumakis on Sunday. But then I just think if the game isn't going for one of the strikers and you've only got the one, I don't know if you can turn to someone like Johnny Kenny just now. I don't know if you can turn to maybe someone like Lila Bada to play through the middle again. I do think that we could probably be doing with a young, probably Premiership striker to come up, whether it be someone who's just looking to get a bit of game time, looking to get out on loan, someone who may eventually replace Kyogo and Giakoumakis, and we'll get to the Giakoumakis article very shortly. It's just having that extra depth because we can. It's not a case of like it's absolutely needed. But when you look at the amount of games we're going to play this season, we're going to be playing 60 plus games this season. We've got the revenue coming in from the Champions League. We've got the revenue coming in from the season tickets. The budget is there. Instead of just trying to, we might have enough. Just be sure.
I think if a Yeti was to go, then definitely 100%.
I think he'll leave. I definitely think he'll leave before the.
Well, if he was to leave, then I would say absolutely. If we're freeing up his wages, then look at a cheaper option than a Yeti, because a Yeti's got to be on. If it was bought for 5 million, somewhere between 15, 20 grand a week, maybe more.
I've heard that he's on 25 a week.
I mean, that to be paying out that money for someone that isn't contributing, hasn't really contributed, and doesn't look like they're going to contribute is quite in this climate as well is sickening. Like no ill thoughts to the guy or anything like that. He's earned a move. We've paid the money. His agents negotiated the deal. He just hasn't. He came in at a really, really bad time, as did Barkas, obviously, as did Shane Duffy. And, these guys, weren't privy to what Celtic is really like. At the start of their Celtic careers, it was a really weird time. I was just actually talking about it with a taxi driver there as a Celtic fan, and we were just sort of looking back at that time going, how brutal was it to not be able to go to the games and everything else. So that's only this recent past as well, and he's a legacy of that time, and it's clear that he needs a move to get going again somewhere else. At what level, I don't know, but if we could get the money freed up for him, then obviously he's in that position. So then you're a jersey down in that position. Yeah, absolutely. Get somebody, because we saw with our nearest and dearest how easy it is to end up in a striking crisis, because like for the last 2-3 months of the season they were playing with no striker, playing midfielders up top and everything else, and we certainly don't want to end up in that position. And Kyogo whilst he's amazing, hasn't really had the best injury record so far, and neither is Giakoumakis actually, because he missed the first half of last season. He only played really the second half.
Yep.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, Ayeti right now can't be trusted to come on and do the business when we need him. So if he goes, then we need somebody to come in that we can trust, and that's an Ange Postecoglou signing, because obviously Ayeti isn't, and we've kind of seen Postecoglou being ruthless with the signings that were made prior to him. There was no sort of I'm trying to think of the expression. There was no question that Bolingoli was going to get given a chance, and Barkas.
And yet he did.
He did get
Livingston. That game at Livingston, never forget that.
Livingston away, aye. But I mean, Barkas was obviously not fancied, and he assessed the Barkas situation and thought, nah. So he's obviously done the same with Ayeti. So I agree, if Ayeti was to go, then another striker, who that may be, then I'm sure, like everywhere else in the park, there'll be a short list. There's Haksabanovic has obviously been in a short list waiting to be approached, and there'll be strikers there as well. Wish it could have been Jordan Larsson though, couldn't it? That would have been.
I'm not even going to go into that debate, because I don't think my views would be taken well in the chat. We did ask you to get your nicknames in for Haksabanovic. Brown Warrior comes in and says we call him Sandwich.
Obscure, quite like it.
Need to explain that one. Pete McGee, Hacker. That's kind of going with what Edward Diver says. He's Haka. Right, okay. Kaiser HTCC, Hacksack. I think that's what Maurice Jens got hit in the other day. Strange Love the Doctor is just simple. We'll call him Sid.
That's already been taken though.
Would Sid be annoyed if Sid came in?
Possibly. Do you know what?
We'll speak to Sid about it.
I would be confident that the Celtic dressing room right now would conjure up a suitable nickname that's probably got nothing to do with his actual name, because that's the best ones, is when it's just like something that he wears or does or has a particular trait. These nicknames. I mean, what is it? Who used to get called? Ki Sung Young got called Dave.
But he said that himself. I remember that from his first press conference. He just says, "Just call me Dave."
Oh, did he say that? All right.
That's exactly what he says. Yeah. But one of the best ones in the dressing room, I believe, at the minute is Cameron Carter-Vickers. It's called Fridge.
Well, there you go. I mean, because he is one, and yeah, I can see that. I mean, I would leave it up to the players. It seems like a really good dressing room at the moment, where they're kind of all pretty tight. They're all, you see that when Starfelt scored on Sunday, practically the whole team ran over and celebrated with them, and I loved seeing that. It's great, seeing the guy running towards us with a big smile on his face, because I think he obviously appreciated that it wasn't the greatest goal he'll ever score, but it was a goal.
The only one he ever scores for us, mind you.
Well, a future pub quiz question, but I bet you there's been guys putting Starfelt as a goal scorer any time, every week. And on that, by the way, we were in, our pals were in the Glen Cairn suite on Sunday before the game. The one that's just at that junction.
Yep.
And then we were in like the function suite at the side, and there was an arch at the back that was it was from the night before, obviously, and it had like balloons on the arch, like gold balloons, and it had like Rachel's hen party 13/8/22. And me and my pals were like, "Wow, I need to get a picture in front of that." So we went over and got a picture with the Celtic tops on and all that. And then I said, as we were walking back away from it, bearing in mind this is before the game, I was like, that'll come up in our memories in like 10 years' time. And we'll be like, "Oh, I mind Rachel's hen party and 5-0 away to Killie." And then we went and won 5-0. I honestly was kicking myself afterwards. I don't even want to know what price 5-0 was on Sunday, but I bet you any money it was favourable anyway. I don't think, we've never won 5-0 at Killie, so I don't know why I said it, when I did. But it was
Well,
just
that's what I was thinking the other day. The last time we'd scored 5 down there, and I reckon it would have been the 6-0 win when Neil Lennon's team lifted the title the first time round.
Oh yeah,
Gary Hooper get 2. I think Ledley get 2. Maybe Stokes scored and Mulgrew scored. I think that was the goal scorers that day. That was my first away game. I remember that well.
all right.
I think it was like three of the 4 stands.
Was that the same season we beat Aberdeen 9-0?
It would have been, yeah. It would have been.
Shared the clip of that earlier on, and I kind of forgotten about that game. 9-0. I mean, what a horrendous score to get beat by in the league as well. And Aberdeen, like.
And the worst thing is, it probably should have been more. Underwater Cabbage Salesman saying we'll just call him Bob. It's cheap on the shirt. IH Decorating comes in to call him Hacky Sack. Danielle agrees we'll call him Sid. Angelo Tyro, we're asking for a nickname, not a longer name, but he comes in with Seamus Said, Mick Haksabanovic, or just Haxa. And Scott Howe calls him Hakamakis. And finally, Paddy Lafferty, probably with the best of the bunch here, coming in to say, call him Crackback and Sack.
Unlikely to catch on, but you never know.
Definitely worth saying. Scott Howe, just on the topic of Barcelona earlier on, he says Barcelona good at getting crisis loans. I couldn't get through a week because of them. That just shows you where they were at. So we spoke earlier on about this article by Juco James in the Celtic Way yesterday, and it was on potentially whether Celtic should cash in on Georgios Giakoumakis now and put the money towards signing new players. Now, it caused an almighty uproar on social media yesterday. To be perfectly honest, I think the journalist, in quotation marks, the editor and the company involved all got out of it exactly what they were looking for. They got people talking, they got people clicking on the website, and they probably got the ad revenue from that. In terms of the article itself, I just think it's maybe one of those ones that the timing of it couldn't be any worse. And sometimes it just goes to show you that when you're looking at things from a statistics point of view, it's totally different from when you're just watching it with your eyes every single day of the week. A lot of people like Juco, a lot of people don't like Juco. For me, I just thought it was a poorly timed article, and I just think with the transfer window still open, it seemed to be put out there to cause a bit of uproar amongst the Celtic fan base.
I mean, I read the nuts and bolts of it, and I can, whilst I can understand the bones of the argument, I don't agree with it, because it's the same thing whereby, so I've been told my flat has gone up in value by 12.5% over the last year and a half. So you'd think, oh wow, great, I'll sell it and make a profit. But then I'd be in the same position when I go to buy somewhere else, because everyone else has put their prices up as well. So it's exactly the same with football players. If for whatever reason X team from England was to offer us 15 to 20 million for Giakoumakis, we get that money. We're there. If we want to go out and get somebody that can do what Giakoumakis has done, and I think can continue to do and get even better, then we're going to need to pay over the odds as well. We only paid 2.7 million for him.
Mm-hmm. Let's be honest, JP, that was a gamble. As much as he was the top goal scorer in the Eredivisie the season before, they kind of look at it to say, well, he scored 27 goals that season, and his previous best before that was less than 10.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a bit of a gamble for him to make the move over to Celtic to kind of continue that. And the first 5-6 games, the amount of people that got on the back of Giakoumakis when he missed that penalty at home to Livingston as well, they say, no, he's a dud, he's a waste of money, and then he goes on and proves himself. So it was a massive gamble at the time, and it would be a gamble again to try and replace somebody of that quality.
Especially at this point in the season, with only 2 weeks left of the transfer window, ahead of Champions League games whereby you're giving this guy an opportunity to play on a stage that he probably has dreamt of playing on his entire footballing career. I mean, he's clearly hungry, clearly enjoys scoring goals for Celtic. To sell somebody like that, or actively look to sell somebody like that at this point, would be lunacy as far as I'm concerned. And I know that's a fan talking. I'm a fan. I'm not. I don't have any expert knowledge on data or analytics. I don't dispute that those are factors that are taken into account in the game, in the modern game. Of course they are. Of course, top clubs use data and use analytics, when they're looking at signing players and how they develop players and all that. I get that. I'm not running that down. I know a lot of people immediately just go, oh, these guys they don't know anything and all this sort of stuff. But if you take it, put that to one side and you just go, right, I'm a Celtic fan. There's a guy there that is clearly happy at Celtic, thriving under the manager. You could argue that it's Postecoglou that's getting the tune out of him, because let's be honest, like the Eredivisie, the club he played for there weren't, flying high. They were
relegated that season.
Yeah, and a lot of his goals were penalties from what was brought up, I think, at the time, when people were trying to pour cold water on the fact that we were signing the top goal scorer from Holland and saying that, most of his goals were penalties, so that doesn't really count. But he showed at Celtic that he can score all sorts of goals. Overhead kicks, are coming natural to him now, and he's just a very likable person who seems to be popular. I think his nickname in the dressing room, not Zeus.
That would make sense.
I think it is. I'm sure I heard somebody in an interview call him Big Zeus. So you can't have enough people like that, and to be talking about redistributing funds throughout the rest of the team at this point in time, when clearly it's not part of the club's plans. I mean, from Romano's tweet the other day, Celtic have got no intention of selling him. He's cast iron first team player, very important. So you're asking the club to completely go against their plans and sell a player just because there might be some, confetti money from down south. By the way, some of the transfers that are happening down south are bananas. Like Wolves spending £45 million on a player. Like, how that beyond compare.
Bio going for almost £10 million.
I know.
Summed it up.
Suddenly that unveiling at half time at Celtic Park, is mildly justified. Still one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. I
remember that. It was almost as if it was like The Undertaker making his entrance at WrestleMania. It was the whole lights out, and then there he is in the middle of the park. It's Bio!
Yeah, and you're like, nobody knows who this guy is. Like, come on. But yeah, I mean, the money down south is bananas, and there's probably, from that article, there was probably an angle whereby, the writer was thinking, well, if there's all this money flying about, and why can't we get some of it, and sneak him down to England when he, when we, know that he's maybe not worth the amount of money that he's worth. But paying over the odds for a player, as we would probably have to do if we were in the position where we were looking to spend serious money, it doesn't always work out, does it? And no. you're also expecting and hoping for another, not lucky windfall in terms of how we got Giakoumakis for 2.7 million, and he's turned out to be finally we've spent that level of money on a striker, and he's actually turned out to be good. You do wonder if the endless list of strikers that we've bought in the last 10, 15 years, how many of them would have thrived under Ange Postecoglou, because it's clearly, there's you point to Greg Taylor, you point to Ralston as players that have improved under him. So you're wondering, you then ask yourself, would Teemu Pukki have played really well under Ange Postecoglou? Would he have looked like a Premier League player under Postecoglou? And God, there's a litany of other names, isn't there, of players? Klamala, all of those guys.
When you look at it, and I've just seen a couple of people coming in there backing up what you're just saying, although this one kind of caught me with a bit of a giggle. Brown Warrior saying that turns out that he was biodegradable.
Good
that was a good one. Keep them coming. When you look at it, I mean, we're not in a position just now where if you don't make a certain part of Europe, then you have to sell. I don't think we made the Champions League group stage this season, which meant that we didn't have to sell wildly. But I don't think that we would have sold many of the players that we've got in here now, because I don't think there's many with that top level value yet. I still think that we've got a bit to go. Would we have signed both Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers if we didn't have the Champions League money? I don't think so. No. I think we would have maybe only bought one of them. I don't think the budget would have been there for the two. It might have been if you'd made a sale, that would have been an option. But when you look at it this year, we're still investing heavily in the team, because as of perhaps the Hearts game last season, I don't think there was one single sellable asset in that team that you would have thought, well, do you know what, if we don't make the Champions League group stage and we need to recover that 20-30 million pounds, that's a player that we could go to.
Callum McGregor, maybe.
That was it. But at that point, he's just took over the captaincy.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, there's nobody there. Whereas now, you're sitting looking at it and you're going, well, we've actually brought in Kyogo. Kyogo's hit the ground running. He's done it in Europe. Jota signed him on a permanent basis. He's only been here a year, but you can already tell that Benfica are regretting the price that they put into that buy-on clause. Guys like Cameron Carter-Vickers, Juranovic brought in at an absolute steal. Maeda, Abada, even Joe Hart. If Joe Hart was to go down south again, he would go for a lot more than what we paid for him. And it just shows you that we're now in that cycle. And I think this is where the signing of Haksabanovic, if it goes through, continues this, is that we're actually getting to the stage where we will be able to continue to sell players going forward in the future. But when you were left with, and Red Scotland comes in here to say, what are we on about? Last season we did the rebuild with profit left over. What are you spouting about this nonsense? But there's only so much money that's left after every season. We were lucky that the money was there, that we sold players to make that profit to start the rebuild. At that point, once the rebuild starts, you can't then go and sell those players for anything more than what you got for them. So what I'm saying is, when you made it with a profit, and I totally agree with you there was nothing else there that if we hadn't made the Champions League this season, we would have probably went and sold somebody. But the fact that we did make the Champions League this season, it just shows that we are in this position that we can go on and continue to reinvest in the squad, which is something that we haven't done. We haven't strengthened from a position of strength before. When we made the UEFA Cup final in 2003, we didn't then go on and put towards that team so that we could be competitive in the Champions League. We didn't invest when Rodgers was there, and you look at it and you hear him saying the exact same things now at Leicester at what he said when he was here, is that we didn't invest from that position of strength. Now we're in that position of strength. I think we are investing very well. And when we're saying, why are we looking at bringing these players in? We've already got X, Y, and Z. It's because we can, and it's because we are looking to the future to say, well, if Giakoumakis does leave for £15 million or whatever it is next season, you've already got that next player in, because we've already looked at succession planning.
And also, if you've got players of a certain standard and quality and potential value all throughout the team, you won't suffer the loss of one of them or two of them if they were to go, because we're never going to sell like the entire team. But if one or two where, I guess it's all about, like you say about cycles, it's all about like making sure that everybody isn't on the exact same cycle. Do you know what I mean? So that you're not getting to a point where one summer everybody wants to go. Everybody's had enough at Celtic and they want to, spread their wings and go down to England and treble their salary or whatever. You want it to be staggered so that there's like, okay, well, that guy will leave that in this summer, and then we've got that good a team. We can suffer the loss of a guy that's leaving for 15 to 20 million pounds. Because let's be honest, if someone's leaving that's worth 15 to 20 million pounds, it will impact your team. As I think, sorry to mention them, I think it's affected those players at the other side of the city, because I think losing Bassey and Aribo has affected their team. I don't think you could speak to any one of their fans that wouldn't agree. Well, you probably could. You probably would be able to agree with. Some of them would try and say that they're better without them, or that they've improved with the signings they've made. Aribo scored for Southampton at the weekend. Seems to have fitted in pretty well there. Not really kept an eye on Bassey, but they won't be worried about how well Bassey does at Ajax. They got the thick end of 18 million for him. So losing players of that value impacts your side. And we just have to make sure that when we do eventually lose players of that value, that it's not impacting us to the point that we're like, oh no, how are we going to replace these guys?
Yeah, and that's where I can almost see a sort of remnants of sense coming from that article, because it is a case of needing to invest if you do sell the players on, but the timing of it right now, it doesn't make sense. If we were talking about this next summer, I could almost understand it, because as you say, there's a cycle for players in Scottish football. What will he be? Giakoumakis will be 27, 28, coming into his prime, probably the most amount of money you're going to get for him. I can understand that then, but 12 months in, it just doesn't make any sense, especially when you look at what we did 2 seasons before, when you're bringing in guys like Ayeti, Barkas, players that we've already spoke about, Bolingoli, and these were the guys that we were meant to sign cheap and sell them on, and we made a complete backside of it. So you can't afford to sort of waste that again. You need the right management team, you need the right transfer structure, and the fact is we didn't have that this time last year. Once these players have now came in, we're now reaping the benefits of it.
That's the same with Juranovic as well. I wouldn't want us to sell Juranovic right now, because it doesn't feel like it's the right time, for him to go. He seems really content and happy within the squad and the team. He's got the carrot of Champions League. I just think it would be really it would be quite sad if he was to leave right now. I think there would be a lot of people, not crying into their pints, but there would be, there would be a lot of upset amongst the support if Juranovic was to leave. From me personally, especially if he was to go somewhere like Chelsea. I just there's not many people around it. There's not many players, in fact, if any at all, that are in that first team right now that I would be happy with them going. Absolutely not. Let's hope that that's the case come transfer deadline day, which is the first. It's been extended to the 1st of September, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's just the way that it falls. I think it always goes into the 1st of September, whether it be a holiday or what it is, a Monday. I can't remember. I've not really seen the calendar, but I mean, look, people will be able to go and do their own research on it. People will agree whether it's a stat-based thing, whether it's whether it's based on any sort of credence, and people can do their own research on where the article comes from and make their own mind up. But for me, I just think it was terrible timing, and it just didn't.
Don't hold back, Colin. Don't hold back.
Look, we've obviously Tony works for them, and I'm a big fan of Tony's stuff, but and Alan Morrison's really big on the stats and stuff as well, and I really enjoyed reading their pieces, but I just think this one was miles off the mark.
It's all opinions, isn't it? I mean, it's just like people hate us, people throw stuff at us, which is fine, like I don't have a problem, as long as you're not nasty about it. If you don't agree with anything that I've said today, then that's cool, I mean, I haven't got a problem with that, but it's when people start getting, I didn't feel the need to retweet the article yesterday and then fling, a load of dirt in the guy's direction. I just kind of looked at it and went, oh, well, I don't agree with that. I'm not going to get all upset about it. It's just one person's opinion. It's just...
It's very, as you say, it's very similar to here. If you like what we do on a daily basis, you'll subscribe and you'll watch. If you like what the Celtic Way put out, you'll subscribe to them and you'll pay your membership fee. Obviously, we don't take a membership fee here, but some people have to do it to make a living. So whatever it is, everybody's got their own choice. It's a free country. That's the way I look at it. But speaking of a free country, we are only a matter of days away from Celtic being back playing, and that really excites me. We are playing on Sunday against Hearts. We've got a couple of minutes left here, JP. What's your thoughts about getting into this game?
Well, looking forward to being back in my seat for a start, because my fault, I didn't renew my season ticket on time or at all. And then managed to get it back by paying the full amount on the day of the Blackburn friendly. So I didn't get my seat for Blackburn, for Norwich, or for the Aberdeen game, but I will be back in my seat in the North Stand on Sunday. Very much looking forward to being A, back in my seat, B, back at Celtic Park, and C, watching Celtic play, because I just, as I said last week, just really, really excited to watch this team play and develop, because there's things going on all over the park. And I did turn to somebody in the bus on the way back from Kilmarnock on Sunday and said Greg Taylor was man of the match for me. 100% man of the match, which is mad considering he didn't score, and it wasn't exactly a sort of swashbuckling display, but it just, from the first minute to the last, his effort was incredible. The ball he played for Maeda was perfect Ange ball, if you want to call it that, because the inverted fullback, Maeda runs on it. It's like 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, goal. Diogo didn't really even have to put anything behind it. It was like so perfectly placed onto his foot. He just needed to sort of let it hit off his foot and it was in. So I'm looking forward to Sunday in terms of seeing the consistency of the side. Could it be a third week in a row that the same side is named? That's not happened that much, or maybe will he change it with a view to midweek against Ross County? I don't know. It's we've got so many options and all over the park as well. You could argue, could he bring Ralston, give Ralston a game, rest Juranovic? Don't really know what's happening with Bernabei after the reports on Sunday.
Yep, I think he's in the bad books for a couple of weeks yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, and rightly so if it's true what happened. There's all sorts of chat come out about who he was with, where he was, what he'd had to drink, and there's question marks all over that about duty of care for the player. Not condoning what he did if he did get behind the wheel of a car with booze in him, because that's against the law.
Absolutely stupid.
He'd be punished regardless of his nationality, his age, anything like that. At the end of the day, you don't do that, and you should be punished accordingly. But I do think there is a duty of care as to why he ended up doing that and why somebody didn't look after him in the lead up to that. But that's another story. But I mean, you could argue, all across the front three, could Giakoumakis come in and make a start, rest Kyogo? The manager is got an embarrassment of riches, and Hearts have got one eye on their European games, plural, tonight and next Thursday, which are obviously huge for them. So maybe they'll, sort of shake up their team on Sunday, but I don't think they'll shake it up to the point that they're putting out like a weakened team or anything like that, because they don't like us very much. And funnily enough, we don't like them. So so hopefully we can. All I'd like to see is obviously the 3 points, and a good footballing spectacle from the famous Glasgow Celtic.
I think there's one player that could potentially come into the consideration for Sunday, and that's Aaron Moy. I think he's in his kind of fleeting appearances that he's made so far, I think he's looked very comfortable and composed. He's definitely getting fitter as the games go on. His performance at Kilmarnock the other day really impressed me. It's the simple passing. He had 100% passing accuracy, and everything was a simple ball. But what it did is it made the transition a lot smoother. It made it so much quicker, so that when the ball was kind of getting cleared and it came to Moy, it was straight back on the attack again, and Kilmarnock didn't have the chance to sort of rest. And I think that, again, Kilmarnock were pretty lucky to walk away with it only being 5-0 on Sunday. And if I look at it, then I'm thinking the midfield of Moy, McGregor and O'Reilly is something that could be quite a pertinent thing, because obviously you've got McGregor can obviously come back and sit if needed, but he looked very good. He should have scored on Sunday when he got his chance to go through, and O'Reilly's obviously been the star player so far in the midfield. We're talking about Hattati coming back into the squad as well. You're talking about this embarrassment of riches. But I think if you can get that three going, that could be the best sort of link from defence to the forward line that we've got.
I thought, whilst not doing anything fancy at all, he received the ball and made the right pass every time. I think I read or heard somewhere that his pass completion rate was exceptional.
100% on Sunday.
Yeah, they said that. It was the other day.
Just there.
Yeah. So I mean, and again, that he was called. I think the week that he signed, somebody called him in the comments an aging has-been. There's absolutely no way he's an aging has-been. He might not have his best years ahead of him, but he's not. I think he'll do a job for us this season without question. And you don't captain your country and play that level of game for your country and have the trust in a manager that we all idolise and sing songs about and praise and go daft for. I'm not a sort of happy clapper. I'm just I trust in what the manager is doing. Otherwise, why would I be so excited about going to see the games every week? And I think Moy has been brought in to do a job and will do it, and wouldn't be. I don't think it would be a stop the press moment if Moy did start on Sunday, because if he's ever going to start, you'd want to give him a start at Celtic Park rather than away to Ross County on Wednesday. Do you know what I mean? It's like Ross County, whilst we've done well here recently, that's a big game for them on Wednesday because it's the cup and they'll be wanting to go on a cup run and they'll do everything they can to get through in that one. So I think if he was going to start him in one of those two games, I would say it would be Celtic Park.
Yeah, I think so as well. And obviously you've got Stephen Welsh coming back in, Cal Starfelt. It is good to see that the strength and depth is certainly coming to the forefront for Celtic ahead of what will be a kind of busy couple of weeks as we find out who will play in the Champions League group stages this week. We also have the first Glasgow derby of the season coming up in a couple of weeks' time. As you say, we're going in and looking to defend our Betfred Cup. We're starting away at Ross County. We could have spoke about the ticket allocations for that and Tannadice, but that would have maybe taken up another half hour as well with the kind of reaction that got online as well. But look, it has been an absolute pleasure stepping in for Paul here on Thursday. I always love the catch up with yourself, JP. It always kind of flies by. A big thank you to everyone who contributed in the chat today. Some really good comments coming in. I hope you all have a fantastic Thursday, and I'll be back on tomorrow. Actually, I'll be back tomorrow on the state of Scottish football as we preview the Cinch Premiership weekend fixtures. I'll also be back on Monday to review the Celtic game against Hearts. JP will be back on Thursday, but tomorrow we have the fantastic Laura Brannan. Laura. Wow,
Bradburn.
Yeah, Bradburn. Sorry, I don't know why I get Brennan from. She used to be at Motherwell, didn't she?
You're stepping in. This was, by the way, everybody should be grateful for Colin actually dashing away for his work to come and do this today, because it was brought in as a late replacement. So you're allowed a couple of faux pas
I even got Haksabanovic even right.
Aye, you did.
We'll get it. Bradburn and Haksabanovic. There we go. So it could be the new combination up front. Well, Laura will be joined, as always, with the rest of the Friday team. We'll be back 12:30 tomorrow, so tune in, subscribe, leave us a thumbs up. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm. It's been fantastic being here today, and we'll see you all very soon.
Cheers, Colin.